Today, I am very lucky because this was a last-minute scheduling, and I definitely wanted to grab the opportunity to record with my guest today. He's here all the way from Washington, D.C., a multi-talented person, a reporter, an award-winning journalist with a focus on global affairs, a podcaster, an artist, and a person with accumulating certifications because it doesn't stop. And he doesn't do it simply to improve his professional skills. He does it to learn as a caring human being. Who is this special guest? Let's find out and ask 10 questions to my extraordinary guest, Joe Crowley.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, Joe. Welcome.
What a nice surprise.
Yeah, it is a nice surprise. We've actually discussed this for like over a year and it's finally happened.
It's been more than a year.
Yeah.
Every single time I visit, I say that I would love to discuss communications and world affairs and empathy with you. I think that you understand all that.
Yeah, I can relate because it changed my life, to be honest. When you start to learn how to talk and communicate and listen, which is the most important part, right?
I learned from you a lot.
You do?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, no way. Okay, wait. Before I start, I have tears in my eyes, so let's start talking about Joe. So I just gave it like a tiny glimpse of Joe Crowley. Why don't you tell us who is Joe?
Let's start with the most exciting part.
Okay.
I am a dog father. Bisou is my little soul.
Yeah.
He's my little heart.
Okay.
He changed me a lot.
Oh, he did?
He changed a lot of the way I communicate.
Oh,
I learned that expressing your love and what's in your heart does not have to be in words. Dogs and animals in general do that.
Yeah.
And having Bisou for 8 years added a lot to the certificates or diplomas or articles or books that I read.
Right. It changed your perspective.
It did change my perspective.
Oh, okay.
And that being said, also I express myself through art. I love painting, abstract portraits, and now I'm working on maybe some landscapes that reminds me of Lebanon, being a Lebanese American, an immigrant in the United States.
Yeah.
And this all is on the side of what I do daily. It's been 22 years as reporter and journalist. I started in New TV in Lebanon and then LBC and then MTV. I remember LBC during the 2006 war.
Oh, you were with LBC?
I was with LBC. I just moved with LBC. Actually, they wanted me a week later.
Right.
And Eva Al-Hashim, who was the head of operations back then in LBC, called me. And she's like, we need you right now. Like, we cannot wait for another week.
Yeah, there's
after
too much
we agreed,
going on. Right.
because of the other reporters who were there were busy covering the war. So they needed more
you were on the
hands
ground.
on deck.
On the ground you were.
Yes.
What was that experience like?
It was the first time I covered war zones, and then I moved to MTV when MTV opened right before the elections in 2009.
Okay.
And then I felt like I got everything I wanted from this experience.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. And I thought there's more to explore in politics and how we should cover politics. And I thought there's something missing. I did not just want it to, after 10 years probably, to keep doing the exact same thing. Going and covering press conferences from political leaders, from party leaders, and they are the same.
Yeah, they are. They haven't changed.
They haven't changed. And I thought that I do not just want to go and listen to a press conference and then come and repeat what has been said in the press conference. I thought there's more to journalism. There's more for me to understand the world, and for me to understand the world and who I am in this tiny little part in Lebanon and my roots. I should understand the world. And that's what I did. I joined Sky News when they opened back in 2011-12.
Located?
In Abu Dhabi.
Oh, okay.
And then with them, I covered, the the whole migration of Syrian refugees because of the war.
Okay.
So I covered refugee camps.
From Abu Dhabi?
From Abu Dhabi, I was the roving reporter.
Oh,
So I was
okay.
going to some danger zones, war zones,
wow.
refugee camps.
Okay.
And I went inside Aleppo. Like, this is where I put my
During the
life on
dangerous
danger.
times,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, there's a rocket that landed next to
wow.
us.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't tell anyone back then.
Okay.
And I think this was like also another strike that I need to dig deeper in world
Okay.
politics, not just be on the ground as a roving reporter covering events and dangerous events. I wanted to go inside the hallways of decision makings
Oh, okay.
in Washington, D.C. And
Right.
I was lucky to go and cover the 2012 elections
Right.
between Barack Obama and Mitt Romney in the United States.
Okay. They
And then
sent you Sky
They
Teams?
sent me, yeah,
Okay.
as like a backup reporter. Usually as roving reporters, we go and
Right.
cover events. That
Sorry,
was one of the events.
I would just want to ask a question in brackets because your English is very good.
I mean, I studied also. I worked on my English here, watching series and reading the
Right.
series, but also I like to think that I love languages. I love
Okay.
to think that, and
Yeah.
I speak 4 languages.
Oh, okay.
So I have maybe an ear to
Yeah.
acquire
Right.
conversations.
Okay.
But studying made me think. So this is a very important point because I used to think in French.
Oh, you did?
My first job
Okay.
was in Allo magazine
Oh, really?
in Lebanon.
Okay.
Yeah, and I used to report and write stories about in
Right.
French. And I used to think and count in French and express my emotions in French. I
Okay.
used to write in my journal in French.
Oh,
Now I
okay.
cannot do that.
That's quite a shift.
Yes.
Did you go through Arabic also? Or
No.
Okay.
Arabic has been always the language for my reporting.
Okay, for your professional side.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And my Arabic is really, really good.
It
In
is.
terms of grammar
Yeah.
and enunciation.
Yeah. Because I have trouble understanding. I'll grab one word here and one word there.
But studying forced me to think like my peers in the class.
Okay.
Studying in Georgetown forced me to write and think in English. And
Okay.
living in a society, you have to learn the emotions, the behaviors,
Yeah.
and all that is different.
Because it's a different culture completely.
Yes, and I
Right.
found out that there are some emotions that I can't express in English. I cannot find the
Right.
words to express in Arabic.
Okay.
Like, for instance, when we say you should get out of your comfort zone,
Yeah.
there's no way to express that or translate that or transliterate that in
Right.
Arabic.
Oh, that's right. I'm trying to think. There
Yeah,
isn't.
it is hard.
Yeah.
So there are expressions and emotions and behaviors that I got used to expressing myself with in English. But I mean, I have an accent and I love my accent. I used to hate having an accent because that would be a point where someone who's born in the United States
Right.
would know immediately that I'm an immigrant.
Yeah.
So I had that whitewashing part in me that I do not want to be recognized. But now, growing older,
Yeah. You appreciate
this
yourself.
is part of who I am. And actually, it shows more diversity in who I am. If I have an accent, which means I know another language.
Yeah, of course.
So now it's a point of pride and not a point of shame.
But it's not a heavy accent because you're very eloquent and you pronounce very well your words.
Well, I could say the same
Yeah.
to you. You don't have an accent,
Well, 'cause
or
I
like
was-
you're eloquent as well. You enunciate.
Yeah, but I was
perfectly.
born in Canada and raised there. So I have the accent in Arabic. We switched, me and you.
I mean, thank you, I
Yeah.
guess. But for people who have accents, I would want to tell them that don't be ashamed of the accent. The accent is an indication that you know a different language and you
Yeah.
learned a new language in order for
true.
you to explain yourself to someone else.
Right.
And that effort, someone else who speaks only English
Yeah.
doesn't have that effort, did not put the effort. So you put the effort. Anyone who has an English accent, you put an effort to express yourself, to be understood and understand.
Yeah.
So that should be a point of pride and celebration.
Well, thank you, because you made me feel better about myself. Because in Arabic, it takes a few seconds to process what the person is saying, even to understand what they're saying before you answer. It doesn't come so easily. So,
And now to this, worked in Al-Hurra as a news anchor and now as a global affairs digital host.
On your podcast, you mean, or besides that?
The podcast is, I have guests. We try to understand diplomacy and politics and current affairs.
Very thorough.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I try to also add communication or how I see interviews should be done, or deep dive into having someone to interview them about how they think, why they think like that, and challenge them on some key points that are values in terms of international law and human rights. Like for me, this is a very important point because I grew up learning journalism in terms of ethics, in terms of international law. So for me, I cannot use sensationalism in order for me to just get clicks. I always say, unfortunately, unfortunately, I work in an environment for 22 years. I reached this point that where journalism changed.
Oh, I was going to ask you this just now. Is it journalism that changed, or politics, or the world that changed?
There are many factors. All those are exterior factors. Because of those factors, it was easy for new talents in journalism to get swiped away with clicks.
Right.
And what makes a story clickable, what makes a story shareable, instead of what are you adding in terms of context for me? Are you filling a gap in my curiosity as a listener, as a viewer? Or are you just using a story to get shares and sensationalism? And unfortunately, because we live in this world, and I don't know how AI right now is going to change, again, the game of journalism. But I learned something long time ago, that journalism is a fast-paced industry, and we have to always be one step ahead or two steps ahead if we do not want to be dinosaurs in journalism and communication.
Especially now, it's 24 hours, even more than before, because of social media and the internet and everything.
So now I try to not cover, because of the work of journalism, everyone knows what happened. We get a notification on our phone. We know already what happened. So I think it's a moot point to repeat what happened at the 8 p.m. news or 7 p.m. news, right? The nightly news. We already know what happened. Are you putting the story for me in a context, whether it's historical or political or worldwide, in order for me to understand what happened in a different context? And I think as global affairs journalists today, and I try to connect the dots between the headlines, between the notifications that we get, to specifically with what I do today. I try to explain U.S. foreign policy in terms of Middle East politics.
You do it right now. You're doing it in reels, right?
In reels, yes. Explainers. We call them global affairs explainers.
They're I enjoyed them because it gives kind of like a different, deeper perspective on things. Like you go down to the core of what's happening. And I was going to say something I forgot. But anyway.
On Al-Hurra.
On Al-Hurra. On Al-Hurra.
Even like so many channels and so many broadcasting entities are changing because the game is changing. And they're letting go a lot of people because AI reduced the number of employees and the need.
Is it because of that?
Yes, of course. I mean, I could give an example of how we used to work and how we work now. Before, I remember we used to go film with a cameraman, a sound person who's in charge of the lighting, And then when I finish the interview, I have manually to re-listen to it and take notes in order for me to have the entire transcript,
Oh,
right?
okay.
And then give it to my editor, and then we choose the most important bites of that transcript. But imagine you re-listening to a 40 or 50 minutes or 1 hour interview. That's going to take 2 hours,
Right.
or you're going to stop and write, even or type,
Yeah.
because we have computers at some point, so we type. But when I started, we didn't use computers. We used to just that.
You're still
I'm
old
that
school.
old. I'm still old school. Now it takes 5 minutes
Wow.
because you take the footage,
You input it.
you input it in AI,
Right.
which is, for instance, there's something called Happy Scribe.
Oh, okay.
It gives you different options. It gives you the whole transcript, the
Right.
entire interview, and then you can translate it. So now we got rid of my time,
Yeah.
2 hours of transcription, and we got rid of the other person who used to translate,
Wow.
because AI can translate now. When you give it the prompt, it
Yeah.
can translate for media, it can translate for a kids show. So the words and the nuances, not transliteration. AI
Right.
can give you what is behind the meaning, even changing the words, but the meaning remains the same.
You can count on the translation of AI.
You have to read it, but that's where the human intellect
Okay.
comes in.
Yeah.
Right? You cannot rely 100% on AI.
Right.
That's why the experience of people that you have on your team or as journalists, that experience is very important, because you have to double check. But that double checking phase takes less than 5% of your time and the
Okay.
workforce.
Okay. How are you feeling? Like, I mean, do you think that this is helpful for you? Do you miss the old way of doing things? Do you think it's changing communication?
My answer would come in two ways.
Okay.
It's easy. I like it this way because it's faster.
Okay.
I work, even before this whole fast-paced time that we live in, I am a person who likes to do things really fast,
Right.
like very efficient, problem-solving, solution-oriented. That's how I am. Because when you are on the ground and there's a rocket that lands next to you,
Okay.
you don't have time to
Quick thinking you have to be.
absorb that
Yeah.
trauma. You have to think of your team. You have to think of a solution where you're
okay.
going to go next,
Right.
and how you're going to deliver that story, because the story is not the interview that you were trying to do.
Right.
The story right now is that the rocket landed next to you and we survived.
Okay.
It's a promotional way of thinking
Yeah.
in ways,
Yeah.
because the survival of the team became the story and not
Right.
the interview anymore.
So sometimes you have to think on the
solution-oriented
spot.
as journalists or
Yeah.
as reporters on the ground is a very important skill.
Mm-hmm.
And now this skill is in demand everywhere.
Right.
So that's one. Like, I like the AI use of in journalism because it's fast. It helps.
Okay.
Even if we have interpreters and everything else. But for me, because I like to be a one-man show. Since I was a kid, I don't like doing projects with other classmates.
Right.
If I have classmates, I want to do everything, and I want
Yeah.
them to check my work and add. But I do not function really well in like the creative process, because
That's
the
very
creative
interesting.
process,
Yeah.
journalist is a creative process. So as a journalist, I like the creative process to be done the way I creatively think.
Okay.
The input, I don't mind the input, because I've worked with cameramen, I've worked with editors, I've worked with executive producers
journalists.
and other journalists and reporters. So there is a teamwork. Definitely, we have to be to have the skills for a teamwork. But in terms of creative writing, this process is very sacred for me.
Okay,
So it
it's
has
very
to be
personal.
private, and it's very personal.
Okay.
That's why the diplomat,
Yeah.
you can tell in my
It's you.
yes.
It's you
Yes.
completely. It's very interesting because you're such an empathetic person.
Thank
that you're
you.
saying that you like to work alone in the creative process. Doesn't mean you don't want to like to work with others, but in the creative process, you like to work alone.
Yeah,
So
I
the
think
contrast is interesting.
it is universal language. Creativity is
Yeah.
a universal language, and I think creativity is part of co-creation. there is a muse, there is something that you saw, that you heard, that you want to put on a paper or on a canvas as an artist, as a painter. So that doesn't mean that you're not empathetic. That means you know the boundaries of your creative work, and your creative work should not be disturbed. But your creative work will be seen by others and will be judged by others. And
Are
that's
you
a different
ready for
story.
that?
Yes, it is a good thing. And because I learned part of me growing up as a human being, as a perfectionist, or as someone who always wanted to be cared for and liked, and people pleaser, which I learned recently not to do. We want our creative work to be liked by others. But again, as the process of growth we do as human beings, from teenage years to right now, I'm 41 years old. There is part that you have to realize that no matter what you do, even the perfection work that you present is not going to be liked by everyone.
You can't be a people pleaser.
No.
You can't please everybody.
And there is a peace in not knowing it, because we can know a notion, we can know an idea, but not understand it and not accept it. So accepting something and then understand it perfectly changes the whole game, how we perceive things. And when I learned that, I saw visuals on social media, a man and a woman with a donkey. And different, like 4 squares on that story. The donkey is walking next to the man and a woman, and everyone's saying, look at them, they're so stupid. They have a donkey and they're not using it. They're just walking next to it. They could have saved time and energy for themselves and ride on the donkey. The other square, the man is on the donkey and the woman is walking beside them. And everyone said, look at the man, he's so disrespectful. He's not letting his wife, he should let his wife on the donkey and he should be the one walking beside them. There's another one, the third square, where the wife is on the donkey, or the woman is on the donkey and the man is walking side by side. And everyone said, oh, look at them, he should be next to them. Why not? That's a donkey. He can hold the weight of 2 persons. That's a waste of their energy, their time. And another one where both of them are riding the donkey. Look at them. They have no empathy for the animal. They're adding both their weights. I learned that this is a metaphor for how societies and people like to meddle. And I learned something in that process. It's not that I'm doing something wrong or I'm doing something right, because we all, as human beings, do right and wrongs, and we learn from those. The thing is, when people judge, like in that story, it's easier because it makes us feel better. When we judge someone else, that they're not, look at them, they're not using the donkey, they're riding the donkey, they're abusing the donkey by riding both of them on it.
It makes us feel better.
It makes them, because we think that we're fixing. So when we fix another person's story, we think that we're better than them because we know the solution. We're fixers. And I learned that also with my relationship with my brother.
With your brother.
In terms of me telling him what to do in his life, because I learned my own mistakes, or I tackled my own relationships with friends or family, or even romantic relationships. I want him to probably save time and learn from my mistakes. And he said, like, maybe I want to learn from my own mistakes. So stop being fixers.
He said it to
Stop
you
being
directly.
the fixer.
Is that what it clicked in your brain?
Yes.
That's when it clicked?
Yes.
Okay.
And even my partner told me, you should stop being the fixer, because it makes you feel good. It does. It's not making him feel good. And that clicked with something else, how we communicate. When we speak to others, my intention, as much as the intentions are good and positive, my intentions don't matter. What matters in communication, and when we communicate with the other person, is how I made you feel. My intentions could be very good.
You mean how you made me feel as a speaker or as a listener or just as
as
an
a human being,
exchange?
as an exchange of communication. When we speak, like even when I tell you, for instance, I could say something to you.
Right.
It's like, oh, this dress really looks good on you.
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
I'm surprised.
But that's passive aggressive.
Yeah, that's what I'm
But
thinking.
in my mind, like,
Yeah.
because I don't like a dress with a lot of flowers,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
And probably I never thought in my life I would say to someone that, oh my God, I like this dress as flowery dress, which I don't like flowery dress, but seeing you wearing that dress, I like it. I'm surprised.
Okay.
In my intentions were good.
Yeah.
But how it landed, it made you probably feel like, why did I feel bad about this? Like it feels, and that is passive aggressiveness hidden in a compliment, but not all compliments are positive.
As a person who takes this passive aggressive compliment, how should I react? Or how should I think about it? So as not to be judgmental in that sense.
The most effective answer when we feel attacked or passive aggressiveness, or when we feel that someone said something to us that didn't click well with us, the perfect answer always is, what makes you say that?
Oh, okay.
Because it doesn't put them, it doesn't make you reactive.
Right.
Even though that you felt something in your nervous system, that there is passive aggressiveness, or that compliment was like negative.
Right.
You force the other person to explain themselves.
Oh, okay. So then you'll get the answer or the complete answer that you seek.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like even for bullies.
Yeah.
Like when a bully says something to you,
right.
Instead of reacting, you tell them, what makes you say that?
Oh, okay.
Do you feel good about when you said something like that?
Oh, you think they'll react nicely? A bully would do that?
You will catch them off guard.
Okay, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
to
and
get
then
their
they will be
state
forced.
Of mind to
because
change.
usually bullies say things again. Bullies is a trauma response.
Yeah, because they're usually insecure.
It would make them feel better about themselves, that they are strong, and then sometimes they do it because they want to be identified with a certain group. Right. I would admit right now with you and to you, that when I was a kid in school, I used to be bullied. Yeah. In terms of for me to be at some point not the person who is bullied, I used to join some other kids to bully someone else.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. And I recently, like 5 or 6 years ago, one of my classmates, I want to mention her, her name is Hiba.
Okay. You bullied her?
And so everyone in class used to bully her for certain behavior that she has, right? Yeah. And I used to be bullied for my behavior, for like the display of feminine maybe qualities, like with my hands, how I speak, with my tone of voice. Right. So I didn't have any other way to defend myself. I was not equipped with the emotional intelligence and communication intelligence to respond. Yes, 100%.
We're young, yeah.
But the easiest way was, so when those bullies, in order for me to tell them, like, don't bully me, I'm going to be with you, but let's bully someone else. Don't bully me. Oh, you know, that's how my brain as a kid, but I do remember that.
That was your defensive
because
mechanism.
It's not me, but I remember very well that I did this. Yeah. So when she reached out to me and said, hey, I'm Hiba.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you for what you're doing.
Wow.
I see you where you are. I've always thought that you have a thing for journalism and reporters or reading.
Okay.
And I said, thank you for saying this. And I have something to say to you. I really want to apologize for bullying you with the other bullies.
But
and she was like, what did you say? What are you saying?
Yeah. It was just
and I really don't forget. I remember a lot of things. Okay. My friends and partners and family say that I have like a crazy memory, that I remember tiny details. And I described and reminded her of the exact same things that other kids said.
You reminded her of that?
And I used to tell her, I apologize. I should have been the one stopping this and not joining them for telling you. They used to call her Sucleen.
Why?
For like, I don't know, for I mean, they used to call every single person different things, right? Like I
Okay.
used to have like a weird haircut. They used to call me Tanjara.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyways, that's not the point. But the point
No.
is, how did she react?
I guess we both teared up
Oh, okay.
because that was a moment of healing. That was a
Yeah.
moment of recognizing what we did, even it was 20 or 30 years ago.
Yeah. But
right?
you'd think that she'd remember a bullying incident. That's what it's surprising, you know?
For me, it's full circle.
Okay.
I know that she is who she is. She's a huge baker right now in London.
Oh, wow.
An amazing baker in
Okay,
London
yeah.
with the finesse of her work.
Okay.
And I'm very proud of her.
Yeah.
But for me, it's closing
Yeah.
circles of healing. And there's no healing unless there is a lesson that we learned and we admit that we did something wrong.
Does
There's
it
no
have to
shame in
go
that.
both ways?
Say that again?
Does it have to go both ways? Do they have to accept your gesture for it to heal?
That would be an additional bonus.
Okay.
But usually people, I can understand if, for instance, what I've done had or what I said had scars in someone's soul,
Okay.
I understand that people would want to let go.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
But I did it for my own sake. I did it because we had communication. I could not carry on with my life pretending that
Nothing
even
happened.
as a kid,
Yeah.
I didn't do something wrong. I want to
Right.
acknowledge for my inner child also.
Right.
So I wanted to acknowledge for my inner child and for my adult self, because my adult self is parenting my inner child. And I know that my inner child was not okay with the bullying, even though I did bully. So I wanted, as an adult self, to reparent my younger self, the inner Joe, and tell him, you didn't know any better, and that what you can do right now is to apologize for that behavior and not do it again.
Joe, we keep on learning about ourselves, about communication, about learning ourselves. Why is it endless? I mean, why can't we reach a point where, like, okay, we're okay now?
Because
There's
that is
always
the
something new coming
human
up,
experience.
Okay.
Otherwise, we will be gods.
Right.
Otherwise, we'll be robots. We feed the robot with endless information.
Right.
But do we want to be automated?
No, the thing is that I'm okay with reflecting on ourselves, on our behaviors, on our past, on our present, on our future. It's fine. But I feel like we're always in turmoil about something.
This is called, I think, awareness.
Okay.
When we are aware, that's why philosophers from ages and ages, and they were so okay with themselves being and sitting with the misery and sadness, because awareness breeds that kind of sadness. When we are sad, we know what joy means.
Right.
And
that's
when we
the only way we can know
that is the
it.
only way.
Yeah.
There's no way for us to be aware of the state of the world,
Right.
of oppressed and oppressors kind of dynamic in the world, without feeling that sadness, because the sadness comes from us being empathetic, even if it doesn't touch us, even if we are miles away from a conflict zone. But knowing and being aware that someone is deprived from secured water and clean water and security in terms of food and safety, we are aware that we live in an unfair world where there is no equity. So this continuous learning process comes from, how can I make the world a better place? Probably. And then when we learn more and more, because we try to reach a point where we have some sort of influence to make a change, because that's the ultimate goal, to reach that point. Like in Buddhism, that's what they say, right? You work in empathy and understanding and accepting and acceptance and forgiveness and love. to reach that point. That's what Buddha came to that point. If when we talk about Buddhism as a philosophy, it's because of that. So their entire life for Buddhists who practice Buddhism is to reach that point, but we don't reach it because there's no perfection.
There's no perfection. What I didn't mention is that you also gave workshops.
Yes.
You gave workshops in what? Communication?
I do give workshops in communication. The last workshop I gave for some journalists, some of my peers.
Oh, it was some journalists, right?
Yes,
okay.
And it was about how to be confident and authentic on camera.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it stems also, it started from me, because when we watch TV, we used to watch some certain behavior back in 1990s, right? Or early 2000s. And everyone does this, like goes on camera.
Yeah.
Even if you're not a host.
Yeah.
Even people who have the chance or opportunity to do something on camera, the second they go on TV or in front of the camera, they do two things.
Okay.
They change their voice.
Oh, they do.
And they do a very certain behavior in their body language that is mimicking others.
That's true. Your voice stays the same.
I worked on that, but usually when I was younger, I used to change my voice to say like this.
Oh, okay.
And now we are watching this news, and it sounded that's not me. And I'm gonna mention Octavia Nasser. She's Lebanese American. She worked for CNN.
Right, I know her.
Yeah,
I didn't know she was Lebanese. Okay, I thought she was
And she did give us a workshop one time about breaking news.
Right.
And when I was talking, I changed my voice. Welcome, this is breaking news on top of the hour. And she's like, why are you speaking like that? That's not how you speak.
Yeah.
And I learned two things, that when we speak, when we are anxious, we speak like that on top of our, because we want to raise our voice to speak like this.
Really?
Right?
High pitch?
A high pitch it comes from the brain like this.
No
now
way.
We're doing this. Hi, are you listening to me? Can you do that? And that's not the listener.
Will panic.
Would not feel at comfort.
No.
So the trick is to learn who you are.
Okay.
That's why it's called authentic and confident. The confidence comes not by imitating others. The confidence comes after a long time when we understand who we are and when we understand our values, because that's how we communicate. We communicate through our values.
Right.
Whether you are on the right spectrum of politics or on the left spectrum of politics.
That's a nice way to say it.
You communicate based on what your values are, and that's how you connect. Because there's no communication without connecting. And there's no connection without having a certain goal. Where is this conversation going? And unfortunately, the majority of us communicate without having a goal. That's why we communicate. We think that we're communicating based on the same topic, but it's not the problem. The problem is not the topic. The problem is, where is this topic going? Where is this topic heading? So the goal, before starting any argument or conversation, let's agree that this is the topic and this is the goal. So if I'm telling you simple conversations, if I'm telling you, I want, please, some tea with hot water.
Okay.
And then add 2 cubes of ice. Or maybe I want this whiskey with just lemon. No sugar, and I want like whiskey sour, because this is a conversation that happened with my brother recently when we were in Batroun.
I'm trying to see the point now.
Yes,
to the story.
So this is like a real thing that happened. We were in Batroun. He asked for whiskey sour, and he said, just whiskey with lemon. I do not want any syrup.
Right.
And the other person said, okay. The cocktail came with a little syrup.
Oh, okay.
So my brother said, but I said like no syrup. He's like, there's no syrup. That's how we made it. And I was like, we tasted it. And then a third glass came with no sugar. And I was like, this is how my brother ordered it, right?
Right, yeah.
And I turned to the waiter and I said, I don't see the point of you trying to convince me or me trying to convince you. We
Oh, you
might
said
have
that.
different taste buds.
Right.
As a customer right now, I ask for something.
Okay.
I want this conversation to be pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
I do not want the goal to be you convincing me and me convincing you.
Oh,
Because
you
that,
said it like
yeah,
that? You went into this whole
yeah,
explanation?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I said, there's no point of that. And this
Right.
is not usually a communication or conversations
Okay.
that is built between a client and a customer. It's not.
Did he get it?
I think he did not like us.
Oh, okay. Because sometimes you have to be open to
Because
these ideas.
I'm very honest when I communicate.
Yeah.
And if I don't like something, I'm going to say it.
Right.
Communication is a tool that should be addressed with honesty and connecting through your values. Communication should not be left out with all parties happy. That's a misconception.
Yeah, I want to clear something out about what you're saying. It doesn't mean you being honest doesn't mean being
Disrespectful.
Yeah, it doesn't
No.
mean also being agreeable. Well, not agreeable, but not agreeing on the
Yes.
whatever you're talking about. But being honest is just being
Agreeable and
respectful.
agreeing, two different things.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have to just
Yeah.
like not to confuse
Yeah.
whoever is listening to
Yeah,
us.
just-
We have to be agreeable, but we don't
Okay.
have to agree
Right.
on what the other person is saying.
Right, exactly.
I'm gonna give an example which I learned also 2 nights ago.
Mm-hmm.
I love my creative process to be in chaos or messy, right?
Yeah.
Others don't like that. They cannot produce creativity or write or sing or paint in chaos, right? Even when I was a child and I used to study, I want all my books on the table.
Okay.
Another friend would, if they were studying chemistry, they would have only the chemistry book on the table. That was not me. So I tried to convince, for instance, other people with the way, like, or even with my partner.
Yeah.
He loves everything to be on point,
Okay.
orderly. I like to have 3-4 books on the coffee table. He doesn't
Yeah.
like that.
Okay.
So my defensive, instead of understanding that this is how he functions,
Okay.
I jumped onto convincing him that my process is the right one.
Oh, you did?
And I said,
This is
well,
recently?
This is recently.
Oh, I'm
like,
surprised.
Oh, not recently, but
Yeah.
like the past year, let's
Yeah,
say.
I'm
which is,
surprised
let's say,
at
like,
that. Yeah.
I understood
Yeah.
more of how Suzanne
Okay.
told me how to understand. Because again, we go back to communication is not what you say, it's how you make the other person feel.
Right.
So I used to say, well, you're trying to be very OCD. You care about like 1 book or 2 books, but look at other people don't have water. They don't have maybe roofs over their heads. That is true, but that's not the point.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's not the idea.
The point
Yeah.
is for me to hold space and make my partner feel at ease. So if I cannot understand that he would be fidgety and unhappy with a mess, which means I don't care about how he feels.
Right.
So I don't have to agree about how he wants things or how he wants to live, but I have to create a common space, a common
safe
ground
space, yeah.
where I would probably read when I'm reading in a messy surrounded with 2-3 books.
Okay.
But what he wants in the living space is an orderly space.
Yeah.
And I cannot make it mine. I have to understand
Right.
who he is and how it makes him happy. Because I don't want, he can also agree that, okay, fine, kids are dying in the world, but I'm creating misery out of him. Do I want that? Am I connecting with him out of misery or out of understanding and working on having something in common? Because we are 2 different people. 2 different people communicating, there are 2 different people, 2 different mindsets, 2 different backgrounds, 2 different traumas, 2 different emotional intelligence, 2 different everythings. But when we try where the other person is coming from, that is where the key. But also, that doesn't mean that every single communication or conversation has to leave, or the 2 parties
Have to
to
agree.
leave happy.
Right. Okay. But does he understand you also?
He tries.
Yeah.
We come from 2 different
Backgrounds
and cultures.
Yeah.
right? Like I love collecting empty jars because I might use them for something, just like that
yeah.
my mom does.
That's a very typical Lebanese thing. We don't throw out.
Exactly. Whereas like, why? You can buy. I was like, I don't want to buy. But again, we grew up
Yeah.
in a war zone. We grew up, like I'm in 80 kids. My parents grew up in the 70s and met each other in the 70s and had me in the 80s, right after and during the Civil War. So
right.
scarcity and not having access to things was their day-to-day life.
Coping mechanism,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
So for them, you can repurpose using things. And today, that idea is ingrained in me because this is my background. This is how I looked at things done. But also today, in a world where we think global warming and recycling is in need, I think repurposing also is an added factor to how I grew up.
Yeah, we might as well do it if we can.
Yes.
How do you feel about Joe today?
I think that Joe today is trying to communicate using the right words, and I'm learning a new process of communicating, which is explaining my thought process.
You're always learning something new about communication.
I think because communication in different geography and different countries and different cultures differs, even body language. Like for instance, in Japan, you cannot like take the business card in one hand. You have to take it with two hands. Right? Like, so there are different things in the United States. Even like your friends or brother, or you don't kiss them 3 times on the cheeks, like mwah, mwah, mwah.
Yeah, that's
they don't.
It's a very cultural
this
thing
is
in every
Lebanese
country.
and taken out of the French mandate when we were
really?
occupied by
I didn't
the French.
know that.
Yeah. So because the French kiss like mwah, mwah, or like 4 or
how did they greet
men
themselves
in the United States don't kiss, they hug, they do like bro, hi bro. And for me, I feel like that's good for them. That's how they their body language. But I feel for me, as someone who's Middle Eastern, someone who's Lebanese, someone who, as Middle Eastern, we love tactiles. We are tactile. I think it lacks some connection. So I keep learning that when I communicate, I don't need to jump for the conclusion. I try to understand, like for instance, if you told me I don't want to go to the beach today, I think this is the conclusion that you shared with me. And I tried to understand your thought process. And I was like, okay, you don't want to go to the beach today. Can you tell me, how did you reach that conclusion? Can you explain to me why? And you tell me, I woke up, I feel like I'm sick, my stomach or something else. And this creates the connection. When we share the thought process instead of sharing the conclusion in communication. So I always ask why.
So share the understanding.
Yes.
Joe, you're a wealth of information and knowledge and experience, especially in communication and everything. This is so enriching. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for saying me like that.
Yeah, of course.
I hope that I'm doing that work, and way people see me is the way I try to put myself as like my brand, because everyone is their brand. So it doesn't matter how I see myself. Your personal brand is what people talk about you when you're not in the room. So the way you introduce me, the way you see me right now, I think that I'm on the right track, aligned with how my brand and how I am, because and my values in life.
We talked very differently than what we talked about before the podcast. So I really appreciate this.
That's why I said there's no need for us
very
to prepare
spontaneous.
something.
Because I told you I was nervous. I didn't have time to prepare.
Were you nervous? Not till now?
No. When we started, that's it. It was okay. You made me feel comfortable and everything.
You did too.
Thank you so much.
You're a great host.
Thank you.
Your empathy and words and communication translate that.
I appreciate that so much. I learn a lot from you.
Me too.
So where can people find you on social media?
People can find me mostly on Instagram. I removed myself a little bit from X, or formerly Twitter, because it's been a very toxic platform, specifically in the United States and even in the Arab world. Everyone who's toxic, they just share whatever crosses their mind.
Without
and I feel there's a level of boundaries that I have to set in communication. But I'm very active on Instagram at Joe, Joe, Kawly, Kawly.
I'll put the link in the description.
Thank you.
And I end the podcast with this question for all my guests. In one word, what makes the ordinary extraordinary?
Understanding.
Oh, yeah. I like that. Joe, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was
Thank you.
wonderful.
This was indeed wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Yalla, thank you, Joe.
Thank you.